I would like to call to order the meeting of the Town of Holden Beach Board of Commissioners. We're having a special meeting today to work on our 23-24 budget. And I would like to ask for any public comment. And seeing that we only have one visitor and she's shaking her head no, we're not going to have anybody come in and make any comments today. So item number 3 on the agenda is the workshop, budget workshop itself. And I guess we need David to start his presentation so we can all discuss it as we go through it.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I've got about a half a dozen of reminder and preamble slides I'll go through fairly quickly. I see we have all the department heads here today, and hopefully I can tee it up for some fruitful discussion. 3 items that I want to talk about is the budget schedule, the way the document, spend a little bit of time revisiting how the document's laid out, and also some highlights as we go into budget season for real now that we've got some of the preliminaries out of the way. Our schedule started out middle of February. We've had the first real pulled together budget workshop back in mid-March. Our canal dredging working group met the first week in April, and here we are today for the second in a series of budget workshops. So we're about halfway through is what I would estimate, including the end date of whenever the board will get around to adopting the budget itself. How the document is laid out, very simply put, we've laid it out in traditional by fund, the operational accounts, revenues and expenses. There's 7 columns. All but the last 7th column are prior year budget. All but the 6th column, which is the proposed budget that we're working on now. All of those are antecedent budgets from prior years. I'd like to point out that the first time that y'all saw this, it was a rough, really rough draft. It's quite a bit more refined now, but it's still a draft. But I do think that it's down to a serviceable level of being able to provide working inputs and outputs based on what the department heads' service levels estimates are in my review. Also, additionally different this time from your prior budget workshop is that we do have a capital improvement plan included here, drafted for your review. And in danger of being redundant, I did want to revisit 3 things from that are happening concurrently. Is that the county, we're in the revaluation year. We've calculated the revenue neutral rate. I'm not going to go into the machinations of all that. Suffice it to say that revenue neutral calculation has to be made and it has to be published regardless of how it's used in the actual budget ordinance, but it has to be published in the manager's message and the budget ordinance. Occupancy tax projections, for the first year since I've been here, those are going to exceed $4 million, and we've also consolidated the parking revenues in the B Part Fund due to the enabling legislations. I don't know, I went all the way to the end. I'm not done. And also differently here is that we're showing the stormwater money, or that we had planned to designate the ARPA funds as stormwater money. Previously in this year's budget, we were showing them in a separate fund, but because of some of the facilitations that have gone on with the local government commission and how best to manage those ARPA funds. We're going to put those all still dedicated towards stormwater, but we're going to house those in the general funds over in the streets stormwater department. Okay, some of the highlights on the revenue side. What we're seeing, we've had that FEMA interest that we've been talking about now for a couple of years. We have finally gotten our hands on it. That money, the interest that represents the interest charges on our special obligation bond, $540,000, that has been secured and it's been deposited in the bank. Some of the direct federal state appropriations that we've made, we're asking for $2 million on the water tower, $1.5 million supplemental for the Greensboro lift station upgrade, $4 million for the pier upfit, $800,000 for Block Q, and then $525,000 for the coastal storm damage reduction study.
Now, those we've requested, we don't have in-house at this point.
We ain't got any yet. That we've requested them, we do not have them yet.
Okay.
Those were the state ask. On the federal side of it, we've asked for $1.5 million in operations and maintenance funding from the for the Corps to perform inlet maintenance in the Lockwood Folly Inlet, and then also we have asked for a $425,000 appropriation for the Corps portion of the 50-year project study. As a reminder, there's $2.69 million in this year's current budget, or this year's appropriation from the feds that it will be reflected in this upcoming budget, and then also $100,000 in stormwater money. Both of those are appropriations to the town, and then there is $1 million to the Corps through the federal budget for their portion of the coastal storm damage reduction study. And then as a footnote, the Corps sitting on $1 million should be able to provide their required maintenance in the Lockwood Folly Inlet that they're not able to do because the inlet is shoaled in. So those were the three things to kind of kick the can, get it started. Talked about the schedule, the way the document's organized, and some of the highlights going in. And with that, Mr. Pro Tem, we've got our department heads here that can probably chat up on as much as you can stand on any of the items that are here. I do want to say that in the budget, because I know that people are going to want to know what's the projected tax rate. I just put a placeholder in here as the revenue neutral tax rate, and as y'all go through it, I think you're going to answer some questions on what it needs to be. And that line that I'm talking about there is on page where it shows in the general fund. Bear with me. That would be on the actual page. It's numbered page 1, but in the package it's actual physical page number 3. And it will be the ad valorem taxes current line. It's 3 down. So that's what I got to say as a preamble, is how the board would like to proceed from here.
Doc, you have any questions?
You want to go through them by department, David? Is that
Yeah,
what
let's go through the
That's
file.
however y'all want to do
I
it.
mean, that's
It's just
fine.
as easy to do it by department.
Yes. Well, if we're gonna start with the department, the administration expenses, I guess we might as well dive right into this to start with.
Motion.
And this, the salary increase from last year. Like I said, we increased salaries last year, to get them up to where they need to be. I think the proposed 5% merit and 6% COLA is probably a little bit I think it's on the high side. I think, we might have to come and revisit this again at some point. But I was thinking somewhere in the neighborhood of a total of 8, which could be 5% merit and 3% COLA, which would be a total of 8%.
Well, the merit increase is determined, so I think anybody doing a decent job gets something for sure.
Yeah,
So
they up to.
it's always been, what, 2 to
5%.
5, right, David?
Yes, sir.
Something like that. So 2 to 5% there, depending on the department heads, I'm assuming. And then the COLA, we took that into consideration this past time because inflation's 12% or whatever. It's down now to 5 or 6%. I don't know how you can keep standing on that accelerator. So I think the COLA is kind of dangerous to me. I don't know what you based it on in the past. I know since I've been here, it hasn't been really a factor, but
Well, what
know-
we've proposed that it be based on historically is consistently the consumer price index from the southeastern United States, but it seems like that somehow that always turns into a discussion and becomes something else. But the way that it's been proposed in the past is just to standardize it and link it to the CPI for whatever quarter it was that we had picked it, like January or something like that, but it always gets, what is proposed has historically turned into something else.
Well, I was looking at the budget for the state of North Carolina, and that I didn't just pull that 3 out of the air. That was, something that I had seen was pretty much, other than the highway patrol, and it was prorated over the next, like 2 or 3 years to get to that total of 11%, which was a 5% merit and then a 6% COLA.
I was only responding to Mr. Murdoch's question on that he didn't know how it was proposed in the past, and how we've proposed it in the past is we tied it to the CPI, and how others are doing it. I got no clue.
And the reason we had to go to the huge increases we did this year is because of the lack of the COLA in the past, correct?
I wouldn't say that, but I mean, this past year,
Oh, I'll say it. There weren't COLAs in the past. We're lucky, the town employees were lucky to have a merit pool established that was somewhat close to the cost of living adjustment, but there were historically few and far between cost of living adjustments, but I'll stand corrected if you choose to.
Well, we don't need to get in the situation we were in before where everybody was so underpaid that we had to give a huge raise.
No,
So
that's-
we're gonna start decreasing it.
that's not what I was saying. We've done it in the past with bonuses and stuff. I think we gave 2 bonuses in '22, just across, you can call it what you want, COLA, but it's money, and it was given, so I wasn't insinuating that we ever did COLA. I'm just saying there may be something better to tie it to. Social Security, CPI is a good one. I really can't argue that. A lot of things are based off of that. I mean, commercial rents, a lot of stuff is based off of CPI. I mean, so, but it's high right now, so I don't know what it is right this second, but it's gotta be lower than January, but it's probably still high. So, I didn't look at that. The only people that I looked at was the county employees, because Brunswick County has a lot more employees than we do, and they're running about 3%. And I don't know what Social Security is, I'd have to look that up, but, the merit increase, I would actually, for somebody that's doing a wonderful job, might even be in excess of 5%. But to tie it to COLA, if we're gonna get that year after year after year after year, I mean, you can expect that if it's a year with, I don't know when it'll ever be again, but zero inflation or whatever like that, and then nobody gets a raise. So it's, you have to tie it to something that is consistent, I guess, is what I'm saying, and I don't know what that is. Because you could tie it to COLA this year and everybody get a raise, and you tie it, and then next year, if everything goes back the way it was, then nobody gets a raise. So, except for the merit increase, which was the way I remember it since I've been here.
David, isn't the merit increase, it is up to 5%, and that's,
It
you
was-
do that
it-
according to performance, sir.
And the department head's evaluation.
I would almost rather see, because it would be more performance-based, although it would be in everybody's hands to give it or not give it, it wouldn't be in our hands to give it or not give it, is to increase the capability to give a merit bonus. Meaning instead of from 2, you could give up to, we could say you could give up to 7%. And then it would be, if every employee's doing an excellent job, then you get it. And if you're not doing your job, then you don't get it. And that'd be determined by the people sitting out here. But just some other way to think about it where it's not tied to an index and
Well, that's what I was
inflation
basing mine
number.
on.
I think we did a good job of catching everybody up.
Yes, we
But
did.
all we did as a board was catch them up to where they should have been to start. So now we're at where they should be, hopefully, because that was our direction. Everybody's supposed to be happy right now. And now we need to start with some kind of standardized pay where you don't have to revisit this year after year after year.
Well, we kind of do though, because it's in the personnel policy that you guys allot the funds for it every year. We belong to a lot of listservs, all of us. The human resources one this year, it looks like the COLA and merit are always talked about. It looks like a lot of towns are going between 3 and 6 for COLA, and then between 2 and 5 for merit. So we just propose the amounts based on what we normally do, but you're welcome to play with the numbers. The only thing I might recommend though is, since I know you guys all kind of like the idea of everybody getting it on the same day, maybe make your COLA higher than the merit, because our merit, like we've talked about before, is based on your eval date. So if you do a COLA, you could do a 6% COLA effective July 1st for everybody, and then do merit up to a certain amount. But you guys can play with the numbers however you want. That's just how we've always come up with what we've proposed. And it is consistent with what all the other towns are doing around here, proposing also. So their boards could change them too throughout their process.
Well, it's just something for you guys to think about. I mean,
Well, I'm
if
still,
I did the math right, you're talking almost 12%. So that's a lot. That's after what we just did. I mean, that's another. I don't know where we're gonna get it.
no, again, I think the merit at 5% is, again, on performance. And I think that should be the higher number, as far as percentage is concerned. And go with a 3% COLA at this point. And, that's kind of floats out now. As far as Heather says, it might be several months before some of them get, their evaluations. I don't know if that's, is there anything that we could do on that?
But that hasn't been a problem with anybody here. That's what you guys have said in the past. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody understands, mine's in November, so I get it November every year. So, I mean, it's still a year out for everybody. It just depends where it falls. We've never had any issues, at least to us, with that at all.
As long as employees are happy, that's all I care
And
about.
that's it. We got, and the
I guess-
employees we have are, I think, we would be backing up if we didn't, weren't able to retain them. We're already gonna lose some, from, retirement, which is gonna put a little bump in the road. And Jeremy's, thank goodness, got us another one, hopefully he'll come on board, and our prayers are with the officer that is ill right now. But guys, I'm just one out of us four, and that's pretty much where I'm at. 5% merit, 3% COLA, that's a total of 8%.
Do you know what, when you looked at CPI, do you know what month, what you
You know,
said?
it's been,
All right, so I need, I mean,
it's been,
I
it's
just-
dated.
I'm pretty, we did January is what I believe the quarter.
let's don't get stuck on this budgeted. We need to think about it. We got another meeting, so.
That's true. I mean, that's food for thought, and I will, we'll move on to, the departments. I guess, the first one, I guess, Jeremy.
One more question.
Hold on.
Heather, how much insurance, how much, like, has it gone up this year?
8%, 99% sure it's 8% it went up this year.
So the cost to the town is going up 8%?
That's correct, and to the employee. So you'll also, it's not gonna be a straight 8% when you look at the budget, though. You can't just do that because changes have been made from the budget last time. Like, we might have had babies, we might have had marriages, the town pays for 80% of spouses, families, so we do it based on the numbers that we're doing at budget time. So it's
I
not gonna be.
understand, a percentage is fine.
Yeah.
And again, that's, you gotta consider that also in their total.
The contracted services, it went up a lot, is that?
Where are you? What page you on?
I'm on 7 if you're looking at the back in administration.
That was for the software support. That's because Margaret's, the software that she's getting, she's gonna be running two concurrently for this time. So this time they need software support for their old one and their new one until they get everything straight. And then in theory, next year, it should
It'll
go
go
down
back
just to
down?
the one.
Okay, I was just wondering why it went up so much, that's
Yeah.
all.
I was looking at the, Department of Supplies and Materials, it's gone up $2,000 from last year.
What department are you in?
That is on page 6.
Administrative.
On what?
The admin.
Admin.
It's just the costs of everything have gone up and we've kept that number the same for a while. We just run that right to the end pretty much. All these batteries that I use every time for the board meetings, they're just the cost of everything's gone up. So there's nothing in particular.
Just everything in
Just the-
general.
All the paper, all those packets, all the, yeah, everything that we're doing.
I don't see anything else along. That's the big chunk at the top.
Yep.
Mhm.
That is a big chunk. And that's, again, as we go through our,
Well, you'll see it in every department. I mean,
yeah, as we go through these, we'll see.
I guess you reflected that in everybody.
All right, we've got, the police department. Any questions on that for Jeremy? That'd be page 8.
Are we going back to the general fund? Or we just go through, okay, go ahead.
Jeremy, you wanna highlight it? I mean, that's what we normally do. Yep.
Ours is pretty much the same operating as last year. We didn't make a lot of changes this year, no big requests. So if you got questions on what we do have in there, I'd be glad to answer them, but other than that, we're very similar to last year.
I don't have it. I mean, I can,
Well, I think you've got the equipment you need now, thanks to the, Emergency Association with the cameras. So that's taken care of, and we got the AEDs in every car now. So the department is in, as far as vehicles, we're good on that at this point.
Yes,
We've got everything in that we needed to have in,
yes.
and we have one. If we get another officer, we'll have a vehicle for them to operate.
Correct, yes, sir.
All right, the next one over is page, I guess, 9. And that's the inspections department. Tim, have you got any?
No, we've upped the contracted services, we've got a lot going on over there with some of the things that y'all know about, including the resolution this afternoon. But we've got a lot of action going on over there. In the past, we've had that contracted services in there, we've used it, but we've also got, this is trying to help fulfill one of those goals y'all have with more modernizing the inspection department. So there's we're trying to make a credit card connection there, and maybe having a more visual ability, or electronic ability for contractors to see what's happening at any time. So that's what that contractor services increase is. Travel and training is probably not right. Probably not right. Where I said we're gonna have a whole person in-class training, because we got 4 employees, we're gonna have a whole lot more in-class training. Because we've lost an employee to retirement. So, I'm hoping there's enough in there.
You got a new vehicle budgeted?
Yep, got a new vehicle budgeted, we've got a 2000, we've got one that's 8 years past our recognized date to replace, and I think 70,000 miles. We've been using it since 2006. So we've got one that's being used that's far beyond your guideline for replacement.
Whose is that?
That was the vehicle that Rhonda was using before we replaced it, and is now the inspection truck for here.
Your red
The
line.
white truck.
It's those 6 miles.
And I'm assuming you didn't retire, so that's first I heard of that.
Well, that's when you brought her on, you said you had a vehicle that you could use, but that was just in the interim until we get
That
another
was
one.
2006, yeah, that's the one we actually, we had enough money in last year's, maintenance and stuff that we had it worked on, and she's been driving it, and she's out doing stuff on her own, doing other stuff, she's driving it. But I'll be honest with you, you would be very cautious to have a program that says you're gonna replace vehicles in this amount of time, and this one's 3 times as old as it's supposed to be, and got twice as many miles on it, and we got an employee out there riding it. And you've got a policy that says that we're gonna replace them at this time, and we've gone that far by. And we have asked for vehicles in the past, and we've managed to get some here lately, but we weren't allowed. We didn't get any. The last vehicle we had was also past 5 years past the date, and past the
And the passenger door wouldn't open.
door wasn't open, and the,
Well, you don't get anything for them if you completely use them up. So
Run them down to nothing,
you get something for that
And you're
one.
not gonna get another 2006 model. We actually had it worked on because the rocker panel was completely rotted out of it. We bonded them back together, so you don't get nothing for that truck either. It's at 140,000 miles, and the whole frame rusted, because that was the truck that wasn't being used by the cam officer, and it spent most of his life out there on the beach, because the cam officer's got hard duties, so it spends time out there.
So, it's a 06, and I got the brother to it right over in the parking lot of the damn home that I've drove for many years. So they were good vehicles. At that time, when they were purchased, I think they were like 17,000 dollars, what the difference right now.
Yes, sir, that's what I was. So there's the $45,000, what, Tim, what kind of vehicle is that gonna be, another pickup truck?
Well, we're actually looking at, one that's, I'm hoping is going to be somewhere around $12,000 less. We're actually looking at a vehicle that would be more apt to drive on the beach, and be better on gas mileage. So that truck has a V8 in it. I'm hoping to do better than that. That's a number that goes with the average if we replace what we have. And I'm hoping to beat that number when I go to spend the money.
Okay, Tim,
The vehicle that I have in mind doesn't reach that number.
what kind of vehicle?
We're looking at a Bronco base, just a stripped down Bronco base, 2-door.
Four-wheel drive.
There's no need to have a vehicle over there that, you know, that's capable of busting people around and, you know what I mean, for the camera officer, or whoever, somebody, zoning officer, who's gonna be using. And it'll be better on gas miles, because it's gonna have a four-cylinder engine in it, and
Will it be four-wheel drive?
be four-wheel drive.
For our community, we need it. Any other questions? Thank you, Tim. We good? Good. All right, Public Works, street buildings and ground expenses. Chris, you've, got a few things in here. You've got them listed, I guess Carolina Creations, like everybody else, has gone up on their maintenance or their,
Well, no, some of what you see there listed was just from my memory. Because if you notice over there, 2 lines over, that's the same dollar amount. But I got a few of those right, it's kind of tricky, and I think I put footnotes there where I can remember where they're going. But, if you go down through it, most of them that's got notes are actually an increase, like, M&R equipment there, $12,000. Backhoe, mowers, actually that's tractors, vacuum truck, I don't know why I got mowers there, but you've actually got, lawnmowers budget to replace this year. And there's some pretty pricey equipment in my office department there, like that vacuum truck, $150,000 truck, you know, we can certainly look at that. Part of that pays the maintenance repairs on that, so that's not really a whole lot of money. And anything that I see, you know, department supplies, everything is going up straight across the board. And, there's one down there, M&R vehicles, I got $8,000 on that for repairs, that went up some, and I put there for salt water. Basically, that last storm we had, we were riding around in days for salt water, and I've seen it where it played the toll on some of the vehicles. One of them had to sledgehammer and just drive rims off the hubs after a few days of that. So that's the reason you're seeing the increase there. That M&R streets where it says $28,000 in motor grader, I wouldn't have no fun, maybe we get that motor grader a couple times a year, drag some of these huge streets that got like parking area and all down there. I did that, I guess about a month ago.
yes, sir. I watched you unload it.
The people started driving too fast, so they'd be back out again. They probably could use it right now. It's ridiculous. Bulkheads, I added another $5,000 right there for increase. We've been doing one a year, but we haven't done one this year, and we probably won't do one, so we'll just do it next year. I've sort of been doing it kind of like I've been doing the streets with that one list there. And then that one up under that, he got one that's a street drainage project, Monday Davis was talking about. And if I skip over something, you want me to,
You said you didn't have any plans to do any bulkheads?
not this year, probably not. I got money there for one, but
So, well, I was just thinking about
The park
retaining.
exercise thing. Yes, Christie?
Just to clarify what Chris said, he and I share Carolina Creations budget, so part of it falls in B part and part of it falls under his budget. And you're gonna sign that contract again in July unless you choose to go with another vendor. And they technically did go up about $150, but that's because they added one palm tree pruning that was taken the whole time. So when I see you in July and you say, we talked about it in budget workshop and their price wasn't going up, they did go up just a small amount, but it's because it was taking them a whole service to trim the palm trees at the base of the bridge and other places time-wise.
Okay.
back on that bulkhead, Brian, I weren't planning to do one this current year unless we had one pop up that needed it.
Well, weren't we gonna do a retaining wall or something where the exercise spots are?
You know, that's why we were paying them all at that time, you know, I was just doing this like on street ends, you know, sort of like taking our water and sewer lines on the dead end streets.
Yeah.
And every one that we have done, past 10, 12 years, we've been doing all the final, and we made a pretty good head, but we don't have, a lot of wood was lead.
They hold up.
Yeah, they sure do. A lot better product.
The, street drainage projects, is that,
Yeah,
you got any specifics?
well, that would be part of the fund in there for what we're gonna do with the Union Associates, big project together.
Okay.
I hope to get spent this year.
That'd be nice. On the next page, can we change the, we got the quote for Point West Tide Ridge and Ranges.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've got a footnote up on this time, at the time we made this spreadsheet, I was kind of in fear to bud the vehicle so high that we couldn't do it. And I got a footnote up under mine, actually, high points through again this year.
In addition to these?
No, it's gonna be,
No, by itself.
Okay.
yeah, we're gonna have to re-wicker that number and take the Point West one out and put the next year's in is what it amounts to.
And it is.
Where, is our part of the bike lane project?
It's not in here.
It's not in it?
You get one under the bottom there, $23,000, got two mowers that we've had over 12 years. Got where I've tried to spend $4,000 on one of them last year. We got the plumber with welding patches on the decks and stuff, so definitely need those, need some.
Is that replacing one mower or two?
Both of them.
Both of them?
I guess that's the bad thing about it, when you buy both of them at the same time.
Yes, sir.
They pretty much go at the same time.
They're not gonna last as long as the last one too.
And it's like Tim said about the vehicles, you know, David explained to me it was 7 years or 70,000 miles, and that's, if you hold one back like this and then have to buy one, it's, if we'd have done it when we needed to, it would be a newer vehicle, so that's good.
Sanitation, I think those things do different there is, trash bags. $23,000, that's not really trash bags, it's trash bags, toilet paper, mosquito spray, to spray with bugs, everything went up. Last week you can see that.
Yeah, that ain't bad. Water and sewer. David, on the water and the sewer, is that something that, it says fund revenues, is that what we're expecting in from the,
Yeah. Yeah,
from the water and sewer?
on my pages, which one you look at, water use charges, which is $1,583.45. That's water use charges. You got one for sewer also. And one for sewer, I'm probably gonna have to look a little deeper into that one right there. We may be seeing a 37% increase in the county. That's IO Solids project they're gonna have going on in the upcoming years. They haven't figured out whether they're gonna start collecting a few white birds or not, but I've been in touch with them. Supposedly there's something definitely in the next few weeks, which we wouldn't change anything on what we get, it just be so we get past, so we have to discuss it, that's for a 37% increase. Next page at the connection fees.
Now,
The
these,
new rate approved, well, we approved the new rates, so that $75,000 should be.
right, so those come into effect July 1st.
That's effective next day,
You know what we decided, Brian?
No, I thought whenever the next day was.
it's next day, right?
No, we,
Chris's fees went up the next day and Tim's fees went up, are going up July 1st.
Okay.
We only changed the
Yeah.
inspection date.
inspection department.
If you move on over to the expense side, you'll see some changes on those. Occasional, not big, but communication line there. It shows the increase of $6,031, or it says $631. That's annual fees and extended warranty going equipment. That's actually in the water tower and Shelly Point. Those pay stations, there's about $40,000 a piece, and we've had them since 2015, so fee on that and the software we actually do the maintenance fee we have to pay on a yearly basis. Plus, I think it's got some sales funds and stuff that's gonna be $8,000 training.
Will you get them the microphone, please?
I guess you can't hear me. $8,000 is training for 4 people.
What is that for the operation of our sewer system?
Yeah, it'd be like water license or sewer license, and I've actually got a couple right now that I've sent this past year, just, gotta go take the test. I think one of them's in May, end of May, one of them's in June. And I'm hopeful that somebody will pass them on one day. Maybe I ought not to put that in there. And where you see that $5,000 there, that hadn't gone up, that's for like phones, computers, laptops and stuff like that. We haven't spent anything out of that, but I do have a couple of laptops right now that I need to replace, but we haven't got them yet. We actually have our guy there that goes out and checks our water meters and stuff as far as if their signal's not coming in and stuff like that, and he actually carry a laptop and be with him and look at all that data. 13,500 there, and that's the same, it's just monthly water sample stuff we have to do every month for state requirements and stuff. The next page, and this one here is the one that really has me worried. Where it says 42,500 UEPA reg on lead and service line. We've actually got to do an inventory of every line on this island, go into a house and identify whether there is PVC pipe, copper pipe, galvanized pipe, and it's a whole lot more detailed than what I'm just saying right now, so that's gonna be tough. And I've yet to figure out how I can go on private property and start digging water lines up on the homeowner's side and identify what kind of pipe it is. That just don't even make any sense.
Not to mention,
That's part of what's going on in Washington right now with everything. There's a big thing out ever since we moved to Flint, Michigan, where they had lead service lines and stuff like that. We don't have lead service lines, and, makes more sense to me, my responsibility stops at that meter box. But why am I gonna be up there inspecting somebody's plumbing in their house? But one of them EPA deals, and I don't know how you can get out of it, I'm probably gonna have to seek some professional help, and I hope I don't, but if I do, I hope that will cover it. If not, I'll be back before you begging for some money.
there could be 3 types of water lines going to a house. I
Yeah.
mean, you could, on the same house.
It's the first thing I've ever seen, Brian, where it's gonna make me accountable for what, leaving that meter box on somebody else's property going to their house, because I can show you in writing where they want to know what it is from that meter box to where it goes in the foundation at the house.
Well, what
That
is
is no-
legal, Chris? What do they want it to be?
Well, it's not a matter of it being legal, but
There's
if
no
you've got an
way.
older house and it's got copper pipe or something that had lead solder or something in it back in the day, it's possible that you could be getting lead in your water. I look at it like this. If I got a lead cup over here and I'm drinking water out of it and I get lead poisoning, I should bought me a new cup. I mean, what's that got to do with the town service line going to the house? But that's just country boy approach. It makes too much sense.
It's a definition.
Is there any other?
Water service pipe is considered water service pipe up to 5 feet from the foundation. And because he's the curator of the water system.
I actually,
So if you got copper,
That's the problem. The definition is it would have allowed him under his utility license to plumb within 5 feet, still does. But we don't, and we never have. So that's why he don't have the information, and that's what's making it hard for him to do.
Can
He
you,
could have, but we've never had plumbed within 5 feet. We've always stopped the utility service at the meter, right?
That's right.
Outside. So they're asking him to produce something that he could have done, but it wasn't required, and the town of Holden Beach never chose to do it.
I don't think I could have done it because I don't run the line from the meter box to the house. All I do is set a meter and I leave.
And that's what I'm saying, is that the law would have allowed him to do that without having to be a plumber up to 5 feet. can't run PVC pipe within 5 feet of the foundation. And that's the reason why, because you don't require them to have a plumbing license for utilities, so they don't have to follow the plumbing code going out.
Yeah.
So so the water distribution pipe starts at 5 feet, that belongs to the homeowner under all rules and regulations.
And let me say this,
But at the same time, as a curator, we as a town got to decide where we stopped the utility service at, and then they were responsible for that going on. I don't think this rule or this law or this regulation takes into account that 90% of all municipalities chose to do that. They made the homeowner responsible from their side of the meter to the house.
Yeah, that's who should be responsible.
Can we make the property owners get that verified by a plumber or something?
well, I've actually been doing some reading today, and I do think there's certain ways maybe you can get around it, and I think one of them, or if I say an example, there were, say, such and such plumbing company. If you get up to that plumber and he says he's never used copper pipe, you could assume all the houses that he plumbed on his island were legit. I don't know. I mean, there's people that know more than I do, and I actually, when I first read this, I was thinking to myself, there ain't no way they make me do this, but I had a guy with AWWA come by and paid me a visit, and he's the one that got me on, and I was gonna have to do this. But believe me, I was trying to figure out how you get out of it. I've been cussed out too many times in the right of way, much less going to somebody's house with a shovel and start digging the sod.
I don't see how we can
That ain't
do
gonna, I'm about to say, that ain't gonna happen if they lock me up and took me out there in handcuffs.
I mean, as a private fee, if you call a plumber out there to verify it, they would charge you.
But you remember, Rick, when you done that lead copper sample at your house? We've done those for years, and we're on reduced monitoring because we always meet 90% though. That means I have to take 20 samples every 3 years. And out of those 20, 2 of them could exceed the action level, and you'd still be good. Now, if somebody exceeded the action level, you just send them some notification and it tells them about lead, copper pipe, lead solder. It
Yes,
also
sir.
tells you about flushing lines and stuff before you drink water, and I mean, it's all good. But what I'm reading so far, I looked at it getting to the point where they want you to replace their line from the meter box to the house. Just saying, but let me open that can of worms up and I'll find out more about it. I'm still digging. I've got till October 16th of 2024. And I hope I ain't hung around in the last minute and scrambling to try to get this done, because I don't know what repercussions are if you don't.
So you're saying they're gonna require the town to replace from the meter to the house?
Possible. And I can even show you in writing where, say you had to replace somebody, you had to provide them, filters for their faucets, for I think it's 6 months, and all kinds of stuff. It gets pretty detailed. That's the reason if I can't get it all sorted out, I'm
I don't
probably
see how
gonna
you
seek
can do
professional help.
Like you said, that's
Like I
private
said,
property.
it all revolves
private
back,
property.
it all revolves back to Flint, Michigan. They had lead service lines. We don't have lead service lines. We've got CTS plastic pipe serving on those houses. And like I said, for me to be accountable for what's kind of old shabby pipe is in somebody's house, I mean, that is ridiculous. But
They want
that's the
somebody to be
world we
liable.
live in today.
They're passing the buck.
Yep.
Well, the building code had to outlaw that at some point,
Well,
it's
some
that-
juncture.
there is.
Hadn't allowed any more than 2% lead to be used in North Carolina. North Carolina had building codes long before anybody else did, and the rating was much higher. In 1992, beginning of KBO, it was 2%. I'm pretty sure it was 2% in 81, 82, which is maximum lead, but you couldn't use some of this stuff that they used in Flint, Michigan. You could not use lead piping going way back in North Carolina.
And
North Carolina's had licensed contractors, subcontractors and licensed contractors, which means they've also had North Carolina statutory law code, not self-rule like they have up north. Ours was all state law. I don't think that we would have anything even remotely close to what they had in Flint, Michigan, in the ground. But we also have we have the most thorough documented records of structures on the East Coast right over there. I think we're the only ones that keep everything, including the baby and the diapers off the baby bins over there. And it would be easy to determine when the last work was done there, to determine, and there would be nothing you would only see, maybe some polybutylene, but it wasn't allowed for water service pipe. But you couldn't use lead that was content greater than 2%. You could use copper, you could use PVC, but it had to stop before the water distribution, so it would be something else. And PEX, you could use PEX. So there wasn't a whole lot of available products that could be used or approved in North Carolina for the longest period of time.
That's what I'm saying, if the code, you could go back prior to
If you, if the
that,
state,
and maybe look at
what
something.
you're,
and see.
what you're talking about, you could exclude the new ones, I'm pretty sure.
That's right.
And you'd just be doing it
Since
for the
it-
old ones.
Since the eighties,
And
that's
I've often-
90% of the houses on the beach.
And I don't know, maybe it wouldn't work out, do some kind of, send out some notification in the water bill or something, that I make it get some help out of a homeowner, phone in, tell me what about the type
What
of
was
pipe
the
you
date?
got, I don't know.
70 something. You could say prior to 70, I remember it being like 70 something, but I might be wrong, but any
Well,
house built prior to, let's say
I put it-
1980,
I put it this way,
we might look at, but I wouldn't think anything after that.
I will put
Well,
this,
you wouldn't have to look at anything prior to 1980 that's had substantial improvement for major modifications into it.
well, for some strange reason, they want you to focus on tier one homes when you take a lead copper sample, and that's 1985 to 1980 or 83. And if you can't, when you run out of that, you go to the next tier, and it goes back from there to the seventies. We can look at it, review it, but, yeah, I
Southern
thought,
Building Code didn't allow more than.
Let's hope we ain't gotta
2%
do
lead.
that.
They didn't allow more than 2% lead in their sorter starting.
well, I'll tell you what the big problem
Lead
is.
in the sorter.
2%, not 3%, or 2%.
It's pretty easy to explain. It says new EPA, and that's the whole deal, especially in the last three letters, EPA.
Let's pray we ain't gotta do it.
Yep.
Most of this pipe's
Carry
probably
on.
leaked by then.
M&R equipment, $10,000, increase the parts and service. Same thing on M&R vehicles, and that's basically due to salt water stuff we talked about earlier. And on the next line, that 146,750, I got need funding for bulk orders. That's sort of ever since COVID, man, I've been, if I put a order in for meters or something like that, I get them 10 and 11 months later. And we got to the point where I almost thought we were going to have to quit doing water taps. So I would love to be able to have enough funding that I can put a bulk order in and quit running around there wondering where the next piece is going to come from. And even though that seems like a lot of money, 200 water meters cost you $40,000. I mean, so you can think about that, that's just meters. That ain't counting the boxes that go in and all the other stuff that we use, for keeping the system up. It's all got to be pretty pricey. And even though it had taken that long, everybody was saying COVID was the reason for it. Well, I ordered some valves about 4 months ago, and when I got on the other day, it had a sticker on it that said made in China. But I don't tell you what the other part of the delay is. They busy building balloons. Next page over, that contracted services, $55,000, that could cover a major line break or something that would be out of my realm. Good example, a few months ago, we had the electrical service burn out on a Saturday morning at pump station 2, and 4 head of guys and Brunswick Electric spent the whole day down there, and we was running on the generator while we pulled a completely new service from the transformer to the building. If, believe me, if it's there, I won't be spending it unless we need to. Major equipment sewer, I think it's about $3,412,000. Basically, that's Greensboro lift station. Capital outlay vehicles, that's a vacuum truck payment, one new truck, $45,000 every truck, yes, another 60 or something, that's a vacuum truck lease. And other than that, that's about all I got, unless you want to see something there else I can answer for you.
So you got a vehicle you're gonna have to replace because of age and mileage and all that stuff?
Yeah, I've actually, we went for a long period of time, Rick. I've always, kind of looked at them.
Yes, sir.
I know we had a policy, but if it depends on whatever, I run it. I've got 3 of them right now, we get ready to sell. So it works out, I've got 8 vehicles. You do 1 a year, that's a whole lot better than waiting around and trying to buy 8 at one time. So it'd be like having
Just
a
like the
lawnmower.
mowers, yes, sir.
Yeah. So that should put us where we need to be.
Okay, thank you, Chris, and that makes sense. I think that's. David, are you gonna do the B parts? Miss Christie?
Yes, sir. So a lot of the increases that you see in B part are specifically project related. As far as the pier, block Q, we picked up the debt services for those projects, but also improvements that we plan to do, like, for example, block Q's got $300,000 programmed in for the parking stormwater component to move forward. Different than last year, where the Corps had the money allocated to them to manage the inlet, and as an appropriation, we have money that we need to put in Lockwood Folly Inlet this year. It's also our year to do the Ben Widener project, so that takes that line up. In this budget is where we're addressing several points of the previous meetings' accessibility, as far as, for example, new ADA maps for beach accesses. Also, a rebuild and repair of accesses are going up exponentially as far as cost compared to what we used to program in. And we're looking at adding an access at the east end. Specifically also is public restroom line. The Parks and Rec Board put forward to follow the master plan that they thought we should look at 2 waterless restrooms at the east end. And based on some of the other things that have come forward since that time, I think that's probably a good recommendation. So that's put into the public restroom line. Probably the only other major change is the recommendation for a park maintenance tech. Some of these descriptions out to the side are for our benefit, where it says salaries beach project and it talks about that tech. That is not just the salary for that tech, that also encompasses some of Chris's folks that do the beach duty and pick up Parks and Rec related stuff during the summer. But a technician, Chris can tell you how many times I have to call him throughout the year for Parks and Rec related stuff. It was in the master plan that was the next recommendation for a position. As we address some of these things like mats on the beach, restroom cleaning with additional facilities, Chris and them clean our restrooms once a day year round. In the summer, they clean them once, and we hire a company for once, and we just have so many needs right now that I think it's time that we launch on that position. When you put things like the mat out, sand humps up on them, they need maintenance daily, that there's things that you have to do to accompany the facilities.
You have a job description, like,
It's gonna be the same job description as the entry-level public works technician, except it'll be housed in the B Part fund.
So they'll do the mats and the restrooms, you're saying?
And anything that currently, so just this
Anything they're already
week,
doing?
yeah, just this week I called on them, they've had to weather tech the picnic shelter. They've had to get rid of plants pulled out by the beautification club. They go down to 796 and mow. They've mowed block Q. There's so many things that currently pull them from water sewer streets to do Parks and Rec related things that even though it's housed in B Part, it falls under me, they're also gonna be back and forth doing, putting up shade cells, those things that we do that are all Parks and Rec related. And the only other thing that I specifically wanted to call out is even though we went through and verified these sheets and had to say, yes, we agreed, somehow the cell there for Jordan Boulevard Ops Maintenance, when we were talking about Carolina Creations, that number in the description to the side.
What page you on?
Sorry, over to the side where it says in the detail contract, north side of bridge and irrigation, that number should not be 28, it should be 33,575.50.
Where is that?
It's in the detail line of Jordan Boulevard Ops, page 20. It is one,
Oh,
two,
I
three,
see.
4, 5 up from the bottom.
And the number is what?
In the detail, that number out to the side where it says contract north side of bridge and irrigation, and then there's a parenthesis.
28.
Instead of 28, it should say 33,575.50. And I think the only other thing that I probably want to state, just for everybody's reference, is the travel and training. Well, it does say it out to the side, but that's not just me. That includes board, staff conferences, anything that has to do with beach related that a board member or administration would go to is housed in that budget.
How many beach rangers are there?
There is around 7 or 8 that we hire every year.
And they're just to ride up and down the beach to look?
They are the face of Holden Beach for, holes, tents, and dogs.
For what?
Holes, to make
Holes?
sure people fill in their holes, to make sure tents and canopies are removed at night, and to make sure that people are respecting the dog ordinance on the strand.
Okay. So if the hole's left, are they responsible for, or do they report it if they know the house?
They fill it in if they can. If it's too big, there's times that, many times on the weekend, that we have to, either they overlap for 1 hour of a shift, that 2 of them work on it together, or that we have to call Public Works in on call.
Okay, because I know at the end of our access this past weekend, there was a 6-foot man down in the hole.
If it's off season and they haven't started yet, because they don't start until the week before Memorial Day.
Week before, okay.
Yeah, you called in and we will have somebody on staff to go down. Public Works can go in if it's large, if it's after hours. The police department has gone down before to put homes around it so nobody falls in it overnight and it's addressed in the morning.
Okay. So if there's any mat that's having issues like out of place or trash or anything, they're not responsible for that?
They do work on that some, but for the amount that we're looking to do, they won't be able to handle that.
Okay.
It's just not something, they stop now and they try to address it, but it's more of address it enough that it's no longer a hazard for a trip or fall, and then move on, not as much routinely cleaning them off, which Chris and them have to go out and do.
What time do they start, what time do they end?
It goes, a shift goes from 9 to 1, and another shift goes in the evening and stops at 7.
Okay, 7. And that's the week before Memorial Day and the week,
It goes until the Labor Day weekend. We stop on Labor Day Monday.
so the job you're looking for to do bathrooms, mats, to help out, take that off, that's gonna be a full-time, year-round job? Okay.
In the off-season, they're gonna help cover some of
There's stuff,
the
okay.
parks and rec related stuff
That
that's
makes sense.
now falling on Chris and them to do all the time.
We might have left them food for the inside works and stuff like that in the winter time.
Well, I mean, a lot of stuff that's been problems like the Rangers would pick up from May to September, we're seeing from January, February, because the amount of people that are staying. The holes being dug, tents, stuff like that, trash.
We envision that person doing that on the beach as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Because they will primarily be working like the beach front, except for projects like restrooms. So if they're out there, they can certainly be another person to stop and help with that.
Okay. And what about the parks at the end of the canal streets? Like, they would check those even though there's no restroom? Okay. That makes sense. I think there's a need for that.
I see you have Block Q projects listed on here
Yes,
for the
sir.
boat parking. That's good. Is there anything, is there a line on the any of the pier.
I think I heard, is there anything, and I heard about here, and I missed what you said in the middle. What was your question?
I see you got block Q,
Projects for the
professional
pier.
services, and on the page 21 at the bottom, you got, block Q projects, and you got $300,000 for boat parking.
Yes, sir. And then did you ask about, is there stuff in the queue?
Yes, or anything on the,
Yes, if
It's
you go
on
to
there.
page 22, it's on the next page. The professional services for 441 includes the engineering contract for what they thought would be, next year's portion.
right?
And then also the Hatteras grant that you guys approved, some of that will most likely fall in the next budget year where we have to carry it over. So that's included in the line above in other renovation and repair. Because we'll have to pay all of the costs up front and get reimbursed for 50,000 from the.
For the grant.
Right.
Good, okay. But that's still, we decided to move forward, and that's gonna,
We're gonna move forward as fast as we can, but that work will fall across budget years.
right. Will that grant be in before the start of the summer season?
I don't envision that.
What is your estimated,
Well, it depends on what you're calling a ramp.
the Hatteras ramp?
We're going to have an access there at that property. It may not meet the constructed requirements of the CAMA grant, but we've been given notice that we've got to vacate from the license that we currently hold on the west side of it. So we're gonna have an emergency access
Until the,
soon, until we get the other one built. But that other one being built ain't gonna happen next week, is what she's trying to say.
Do you have an estimate?
It's not gonna be built this summer. I don't see that. Tim, unless you got some better insight than I do.
No, I'm agreeing with you, I'm not saying that.
Did you get the, Daniel, did you get the amortization stuff yet?
Yeah, I
You
got
been able to do that?
schedules here, if you want to look at it.
Well, I'll take it when I leave, I just wanna know, one of my questions is gonna be, when's Central Reach debt service finished?
Go ahead and share that with him. He's got a pretty cool debt service chart that's got the rack and stack of everything that we got. I think that'll be very helpful for you.
You got a copy for all of them?
25 or 20, I was thinking it was,
what,
Tim, Brad,
what's that? Zip. What is it?
it'll help, it'll let you know when you might get rid of, like, Central Reach debts.
26.
26, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay.
So we got 2 more years of it.
And the other thing that we should probably only have 1 year left on, is when we just did the last project, the agencies require that we have raking and tilling as a component, meaning that if they come and tell us like they did this year, that you have to rake or you have to till, then we have to comply. So there's $100,000 in the budget in the debris removal line that takes care of that. Should the agencies tell us we have to do that, that's on page 21. There's a chance they may tell us that we don't, but this year they told us we had to.
And that holds for 3 years, right?
Yes, next year should be the last one. That is page.
At the rate they're picking up stuff off the beach,
They do it at the
we're still
last.
gonna have to rake it this year?
We did already. We were
Did it
required to
before
rake,
Easter?
we did rake in the week before Easter.
That's a bunch of stuff right there, man. It's gravel.
And we've let the agencies know it's complete.
Just uncovers more every day, you know? Very nice, Danny.
The 796 project, I know that the 40,000 for the budget for last year was for the engineering.
Right, and we didn't spend, our contract with David Wood for what he charged us, he's only under contract for, I think, $5,400, and to this point, he hasn't billed us for the renderings he did yet, but that was to take it all the way through So if you guys were decided to move forward, he did the second half of that, otherwise, but remember that 796 is not a big part facility, so that's why there's no money showing in the big part budget. So water asset.
So we need to, what have we got to do to try to move forward with that project?
If you wanted to move forward with bathrooms down there, you could program money from the general fund, because the general fund can serve any public purpose.
But we'd have to, it'd have to be taken out of the water sewer side and put in,
Not until you're ready for it to become a recreation asset.
So we could stay the water asset and we could
Go back and
go ahead and do bathrooms.
That's my understanding.
I think we should try to make that happen.
Mr. Wood did see that that was on the agenda, and Holden spoke to me this morning to try to find out where he was with what we should be doing next. So see, I guess he's paying attention to what's going on. And I said we wouldn't know more until the board took it up again.
let's see what we have after we get it fixed up.
Well,
After we get it painted and the railings and all that fixed, that's when we'll make a decision on how we'll move forward.
well, we'd have to budget for it in order for it to happen. Correct?
we can always appropriate and
Yeah.
move some money around.
Because you're running the same problem next year when you take the porta potties up and you got all these people parking down there, nowhere for anybody to go to the bathrooms.
Where did we leave the 796? It was, there was some suggestions from the board, but you told Mr. Woods to hold off, right?
Yes, he's just going to submit an invoice for the part of the
Okay.
400 that he's
But,
done.
but we're not moving forward with any engineering on what those possibilities were.
Not until the board.
Okay.
Well, I think it was a budget concern. I mean, to be honest, we gotta get through these numbers and see where it shakes out, see what, if we have anything left to do anything with. It's a struggle when you want bathrooms somewhere like 796 with 7 or 8 parking spaces, and then you got a room full of people at Sailfish Park that don't want bathrooms and have actually more people there than you do at 796. So I don't get it, but it's where do you put them? Right now, I'd say you put them at the most used locations. The pier in the east end, by far, with no argument whatsoever, or Jordan Boulevard, even Block Q. Those 3 places would vouch for bathrooms way sooner than down there, so
Well, when you put the 2 bike lanes in, you're gonna have people biking down there.
oh, I get it.
And then January, February, March, where are they gonna go to the bathroom at? Under people's houses.
Same thing, they'd have to go on the east end or the block Q or the pier, if we don't
Well,
have
we're
facilities.
gonna buy a trailer to put it in the pier.
Well,
That's fine.
I'm all for at least a porta potty down there.
And, well, there's not a handicapped accessible porta potty down there either. We'll have to start putting that down there.
Yeah, we'll have
To
to
be
be
ADA
careful.
compliant for that, CAMA access.
I'm sure that's part of the deal. That might have been an oversight, but
It's a handicapped access, right?
I was handicapped parking space there, yeah, say so. I understand.
Tricia, this beach ranger supplies and equipment, is that gonna be another vehicle to ride on the beach?
No, sir, those are the UTVs that we rent for them to ride on the beach.
Oh, we rent those?
Yes, sir.
Diesels. Those are diesels. We moved to the diesel fleet, didn't we?
We did. The, gators that we owned, that we were previously going through one about every 3 years, the John Deere, when the beach project happened, they were running hot in the sand. So the beach project folks were using the diesels, and we actually found out that we're probably coming out better by renting those than to try to purchase gators over and over again.
I was wondering about before that beach thing, what they even cancer with it.
You got any recommendations, David? Like,
Oh,
you got some final numbers, I know.
what do you mean recommendation as
Well,
far
I
as?
mean, the revenues and expenses.
I think,
Prioritize anything.
I think we're getting pretty close that what you're actually gonna end up at is probably, even though we're showing a 12-cent revenue neutral tax number in the budget now, I think that what you're, what I'm hearing, I think that you're gonna end up about a 14-cent tax rate. That's what I'm thinking, and then that'll provide you, I think, the leverage that you need to make the decision. See, because you're not gonna know how much money you're finally gonna need until we get the details in on the pier. And I think that, that 14-cent tax rate, and I haven't run those numbers, but I'm just divining here that that's gonna get you in the ballpark for what you need in terms of to do all these improvements, plus borrow some, and then also take some from fund balance. Because remember, you do have a $3.4 million sewer project that you're about $600,000-700,000 short on the total revenue side of that in the projected expense. And yeah, we're gonna have some answers, you know, on these federal and state appropriations, but when it comes down to making the budget, you know, y'all gonna have to make some decisions, and if those appropriations don't come out, you're probably gonna have to carry a place marker in your budget as it being loan funds. Unless you want to take it off from your fund balance.
Well, just what we just did in salaries is a penny. If I do the math, anywhere close to correct. I mean, we talked about how much that was gonna be, and then if we're 8% again, I don't know what, I'd have to do the math all the way through, but. And we've already said we absolutely wouldn't raise taxes for the pier and Block Q, so we can't, I mean, we said at LGC and said that in front of a bunch of people that are reminding us of it. And we need to be crystal clear on why we need, you know, I agree there's nowhere else to get it, but it's just, we're gonna be short. We're gonna be short. If these are the numbers, and you know, everybody gets their plate full of food, I mean, we're gonna be short.
Well, the way that we've got it laid out now, you're about even, and with a few more plug-ins. I'm cautiously optimistic that it's not gonna be that short.
And you raised occupancy tax projection.
Well, like I said,
Pretty confident of that, I mean.
I mean, it's not only are we seeing, you know, earlier season, later season, the rents are going up, more people are here, they're here all the time, they're just
Definitely
here all
more
the time.
houses.
More houses.
think we can actually put a finger on block Q, and, the pier is being the reason to have to go
No, they,
to 14 cents. I mean, it's, again, just the cost of operating the town of Holden Beach has gone up, and we are, we're still gonna have to agree on the salary increases and stuff, but, what we need to make this town function properly, is not necessarily, you can't pinpoint two projects as a reason for a small increase.
well, we just can't, you can't use AVL money, you can't raise taxes to pay for those two things.
No.
It's just, it's
No, they
stated
won't
in the
to.
budget, so that's off the table. So, you raise taxes for these other reasons, many other reasons, it's right in front of you. So,
It's the cost of doing business is going up.
everything's going up, it is what it is, I mean, it's to be expected, in my opinion, so, I just hate to do it, you hate to do it. You hate to do it, period, that's why I was looking at amortization and debt service, there'll be a few years down the road, but I'm sure something will take its place. I hope not. I hope another storm doesn't come along, we have to do something like that, but you get a breath in a couple of years if we don't have to pick up some other big elephant to carry. So,
Well, the cost of doing business going up, and we needed to get our employees up to where they needed to be, and I argue that that's a bad reason to raise taxes, then,
well, there's two really good reasons, in my opinion, for those 2 cents. One's the ADA agreement we just agreed to, that's gonna take a chunk of money.
yep.
And there ain't nowhere else to get it, and that needs to be done, and then the salary increases is the other big chunk, and
If somebody's
those
gonna
two
argue,
numbers alone,
yeah, if somebody argues that that's
Will
a
eat
poor
that
reason to
2
raise
cents.
taxes, then they
but
don't
those,
know.
just those two items will
Alone.
take care of that 2 cents. And like David said, we're basically running, I guess we don't have to do it till we have to do it, but it's something that I don't see any way out of, but we're almost even, and we're gonna be short, I just think we're gonna be short. I mean, if anything goes wrong with anything, we don't have the money to do it. That's why I say maybe we could leave a bathroom off for, but at the same time, you have to provide this stuff for these
City
people.
services, town services.
I mean, we're a public beach, we have to do it. The stuff that we have, the stuff that we build, the stuff that we own, that has to be maintained, it has to be kept up. We got that light bulb replaced.
Yeah, all you had to do is tell us.
So, that's what I'm saying, but it's
How much
always
does that light
something.
bulb cost?
So, I guess the only issue the biggest issue we have to come out here with trying to be fair again to the employees and see what, my homework's gonna be, go see what everybody else did, that has, state employees, county employees, things of that nature, what did they do? Because we're not the only ones looking at numbers we don't wanna be looking at right now.
No,
And
we're not.
let's see what they might do in response to the same problem that we're sitting here facing right now. But I know you wanna mash the gas and get all this stuff done, but we, like the pier, getting it open and stuff. Well, tomorrow we might get a grant and we got all the money to fix the whole thing. Let's just hope for the best and moving forward that we get some help from somebody, because this little town can't, just can't do it. You only got so much. It's like Lockwood Fire, the Corps got $1 million, and we're sitting here trying to figure out how to do it right now. I mean, it's absurd. Well, we can't get in there right now, but we got your money. They have the money to dredge it. So, it's like somebody giving a deposit on a house and then you never go build it. Or you get to it 2 years from now or whatever. I mean, it's not fair. It's not fair, and then we're wanting to fund a study with the same guys, it's like, it's scary. You don't feel easy about stuff like that.
Well, I mean, and the positive thing from raising the employees was, how long did it take for him? He's been trying to hire a police officer for 3 years? And we raised everybody up to where they're supposed to be, and bam, he's got an officer. Thank God, because we're down another one. So it's a perfect example of what that needed to be done.
I don't think anybody here is, I
No,
don't
I'm
really
just
hard on anything.
I'm just saying it's a good example of,
I want them to get, the people here who work hard, they need to get paid. It's down to every human being that gets out of bed and puts their clothes on to me, not just here to anybody. Got a problem from getting up, so this day and time.
Hey, Christie, we talked about, we had the canal dredging users group. You want to discuss briefly what came out of that? The small dredging that we're going to do, try to do?
Yeah, I believe that Bill Geddes might have sent you guys an email that asked for support, but they took a look at their surveys based on their entrance canal and a shoaling issue there. And instead of waiting for another big dredge of all the canals, they want to do basically a maintenance dredge of just the entrance canal and a few hotspot areas in there. We have communicated with our engineer to see if that's something that can be accomplished this quickly in this upcoming winter season, because we do have environmental windows that we have to follow. But they are asking for that to occur in Harbor Acres,
Is that third set?
the fish streets.
Yeah.
Down
That-
in
there's a
900.
Major shoulder at the end of that thing. You guys haven't been out of it. Bad.
And at the meeting, based on, I mean, it was available digitally, but we were not able to have representation from the other two groups that particular day. So as they view their surveys, they may decide they want to add on to that and join in with them, because the last time everybody did a dredge all at one time, but at this point, we've heard from Harbor Acres.
Where do we put that material?
This is envisioned as a bucket barge, that it'll be hauled off-site, that it'll be a self-contained, it's a small volume job, and it won't need to have a disposal area and pipe and that kind of thing. He's got a long neck, reticulating gooseneck on the barge, and he loads it, digs it, loads it on the barge, takes it to the hill, offloads it, trucks it away.
Sunset Beach just did it.
That, yeah, we don't want to do one like that. We're just talking about
Small.
small.
I don't know what
So
that
the-
costs, but I guarantee you that's not cost.
Well,
so
it
the
costs
other,
them 15
the other
years
two
is
canals
what it
weren't
costs.
represented, or
They
they?
have representatives, they could not attend the meeting that day. So before, once we find out if it is, and the surveys will be shared with them, but once we find out if we can move forward with a winter dredge this winter that quickly, they will need to make a decision to, whether they want to join in, make any changes.
Yeah, we don't see them having any of the issues that Harbor Acres has got, though.
Okay.
Harbor Acres stood out.
It's bad. Anything else we want to touch on?
You good, Doc?
You got some better numbers
Got
to
something
look
to
at
work
now?
with, yeah.
I mean,
Daniel, thank you for this.
Yeah,
That's, if we can make it
I
a few
didn't
more
know.
years, we'll be in really good shape. And like Brian said, unless we,
Knock on wood. Don't say
something
the,
happens, which I hope it doesn't.
don't say the H word.
Judge Arnold, do you have anything further, sir?
Very educational.
Brian, you good, sir? All right. And I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move.
All in favor? Aye.